Good morning to those of you listening ASAP when this drops. Good afternoon or evening to the rest of you. This is going to be a solo episode. We have not done this in a while. Kirk and Jess are camping, I don't know where, somewhere in Wisconsin, actually, I think. But as happened last time, when the cat's away, the mouse will play. And playing for me obviously entails shoes. So when Kirk is gone, my default is either bring a guest host on and nerd out about some obscure running topic, like we did with threshold training. Not that obscure, but with Rich Ryan 2 times ago. And then last time it was a shoe episode. And today's going to be a shoe episode, but with purpose. So, yes, we are going to go down rabbit holes probably, but I'm going to try to rein this in so much so that if you are watching, and this is an episode that might be worth actually watching on our YouTube channel, not all of them are. If you're a YouTube watcher, it's not that we don't take you seriously. It's just that most of what we do is verbal based. We don't do a lot of visual aids, but today there's going to be visual aids. So I have a row of shoes out in front of me, also behind me that I may be using. But if you're watching, I even took notes. And if you followed us for a while, you know that we do not generally follow any sort of script. It is freeform with structured freeform purpose. Today is structured. I'm going to try to get through this so that I'm not talking for 90 minutes about shoes. We're going to try to keep it closer to 30 minutes about shoes. And a lot of you right now are probably saying that's impossible. And I probably agree with you. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk today about racing shoes, and I'm going to put them into 3 categories of shoes. We're going to have safe super shoes. And what I mean by that are shoes that are super. They meet the criteria of a super shoe, which for me is it has a super foam and it has a useful plate that interacts with the foam in order to make you a better runner, either faster than you normally could or more efficient or able to stay on your normal pace for longer with less cost or less damage. So something that actually makes you better. So a safe super shoe. And by that, I mean a super shoe that pretty much everyone can get into and be better in, or at least feel good in. That is not the case for all super shoes. The second category is going to be wild super shoes or risk it for the biscuit type shoes. Like if it works for you, it's going to be great, but it's not going to work for most people. That's the second category. And then the third is going to be old school meets new school racing shoes, which is where we do not have super shoes, but we have maybe technology that has been cultivated due to super shoes, which has now trickled down into old school style shoes. And those 3 categories are what we're going to explore today. Shoes that I'm not necessarily recommending, I am talking about so that you can decide what's best for you. These aren't the best shoes on the market. These are examples of shoes in each category. So you can decide A, which category speaks to me as a runner, and B, if I wanted to try that category, what could I be looking at right now from the shoe market in order to maximize that category for myself. And then we're going to have both road and trail options for those 3 categories. So starting right from the top, safe super shoes. So again, to reiterate, this is not a shoe that's guaranteed to make you better or faster or keep you uninjured, keep you healthy, or any of those things. It's just if I had to recommend super shoes based on the properties of those shoes and the vast number of people who have had the most success, these are the shoes I'd be talking about. So these are shoes that 9 times out of 10, if you put these on, they're probably going to work for your foot and you're probably going to feel pretty good in them and or be faster. So by safe, I mean not a whole lot of risk with these. There's risk with any racing shoe because racing shoes historically means less shoe underneath your foot, less cushion, less support so that you can run more naturally and pop off the ground faster, which means more risk for injury. And nowadays it means more carbon plating. And carbon plating, while it can enhance your stride and super foam can make you more resistant to damage and can actually reduce impact. The carbon plate stiffens everything up and actually carries more risk for rear chain lower leg issues like calf, Achilles, plantar fascia, things like that. So I'm not saying safe from an injury standpoint. I'm just saying like it's not a gamble. Will this shoe work for me or not? This is going to work for the vast majority of people. So right off the top, we're going to start without a visual aid because I sold my last pair of these because they were a half size off and didn't fit me, but the Nike Vaporfly. This is the shoe that started it all with super shoes. This was a shoe where the prototype of which was worn by 3 individuals at the first race that people were generally aware that it happened at, and that was the Rio Marathon, and those individuals took first, second, and third place. Now, were they the 3 best also? Maybe, but it revolutionized the shoe game. So Nike Vaporfly is a shoe with a relatively high drop, but it's in a soft foam package. The ZoomX foam is so soft and squishy that it dulls the drop a little bit. And the plate is pretty tip heavy in the forefront of the shoe, but it somehow seems to work for a lot of strides. There are people, I'll use myself. I'm a mid to rear mid foot strike type of athlete, and it works for me. It's not my favorite shoe, but it works for me. Glenn Race in the OCR world is a heel striker, loves it. We have someone like, let's see, Kirk, who is a 4-foot striker and stabs the ground, and it works for him. It's not his favorite shoe, but it works. And so my point is that people who are rear foot, heel strikers, midfoot, forefoot, they all kind of just get along with the shoe to some extent. Everyone gets a little faster in this shoe. Across the board, it's considered one of the fastest shoes ever, but it's also a pretty safe shoe. You're probably, whether you like it or love it, you most likely aren't going to hate it. And if you are the extreme outlier. So number 1 in the safe super shoe category is the Nike Vaporfly. If you really don't know what shoe to get and you're unsure, but in fact, I just used this phrase with Jeremy Whitley, who is a super supporter of the show, always giving us great scientific data and asking us good questions. But I think the phrase I used with him is, if you want to be sure you're not giving away a competitive advantage, go with the Vaporfly. It's kind of beyond reproach at this point. Second one, the Asics Metaspeed Sky, and I will bring out a visual aid for this one. And this will get to show us why I consider some of these safe shoes. So right away from the side, yeah, the stack height looks a little different. There's a little bit more of like that elf shoe shape to the front where the toe kicks up, but there's nothing crazy going on here. There's no cutouts in the bottom. Yeah, the rubber coverage looks a little different, but it's kind of just advanced, not crazy. There's no wild cutouts. If you look directly at the bottom, it's pretty uniform across the width where the surface contact is happening. This is the biggest differentiator here. And if you look, like, my finger doesn't even disappear inside this at all. There's not much of a channel there. It's stable. You sit down a little bit in the cup inside here, but this is a normal footbed. The upper, it's pretty airy, but it's not like translucent. It's not mesh. It's just a nice light upper. It runs like a shoe, but better. And so if you supinate a little bit, if you pronate a little bit, if you don't have the most clean foot strike, this shoe absorbs it. Is this the fastest shoe on earth? No. Is this the most current model? Also no. This is the Metaspeed Sky. The Metaspeed Sky Paris is now the replacement for this, which gives it more stack height, and they've tuned the foam a little bit more, but it's not crazy squishy. If I squeeze up here, like, there's some give, but it's not like displacing all over the place. I've run stair workouts in this shoe, stairs and ramps, and it's stable. You're going to put a shoe like this on, and you're just going to feel fine. It's not going to feel foreign. You're going to think, wow, this is light. Wow, this has a lot of pop off the ground. This foam's pretty cool. I can kind of notice the plate, but it's more of a launch pad rocker than a tip off the edge. It's further back in the shoe. It's just not a hyper aggressive shoe, but it's going to make you a better runner. So this is just a very safe super shoe. You can't really go wrong with it. That leads us to the ultimate safe super shoe, which is the Saucony Endorphin Pro. This is the 3. They're on the 4. Underfoot, visually, it looks very different from the 4. Underfoot, the performance is not much different at all. This shoe, if you look at it, is only one step up in the craziness meter because they have a cutout in the middle and a brief channel in the forefoot and the rear foot. But from the side, from the back, from the inside, you just see it's a uniform slab of foam. It's great foam. It's soft. This is softer, squishier foam than the Asics that I showed before. And the rocker in this is a little bit more aggressive than the Asics, but it's still not a crazy tip over rocker. I don't love tip over rockers. I like more of a gradual rocker, and this doesn't strike me as too tippy. It's very light. The upper is very airy, but it locks down fairly well. And it's the kind of shoe where you can actually run slow in this shoe, or medium or fast. It's a very safe super shoe. I think it's the safest of all super shoes. The Nike is the safest in terms of you're probably going to get faster in it. The Asics is the safest in terms of how stable it is to run in the shoe. It's just really safe. You're not going to roll your ankle very easily. You can turn sharp in it. It's a very good shoe. This is the safest in terms of it'll fit the most feet. It's not the widest shoe, and they're not intended to be, but the most amount of people will be able to be comfortable running in this shoe, also because it can handle the most amount of paces of any of the shoes I'm talking about in this category. It's just a very safe shoe. I have gone out and run an easy recovery run with Lisa in this shoe on multiple occasions. On a day where I just wanted something soft on my foot, we're going to go run 6 or 7 miles, and this shoe it did just fine. It's kind of shocking that you could have a quote unquote super shoe and run at 8 or 9 minute pace if you want to. It's not what it's designed for. It's not what it's best at, but it's not like some of these other super shoes where it wants to be run in one way and one way only. That's not this. The shoe can be run in many different paces, and it's fairly good at all of them. I have run probably 9-minute miles in these. And the last time Kirk and I were together, I ran a 60-second 400 in these, which isn't going to set a world record, but that's a 4-minute mile pace. And they were both probably equivalently comfortable at that. It's not designed for 4-minute pace, but it did it. It's not designed for 9-minute pace, but it did it. And then we ran a lot of 5-minute pace to 5:30 pace in these shoes, and it was in its sweet spot there. So it can just handle a variety of paces. And that's what makes the Saucony Endorphin Pro probably the safest of super shoes. Now we move from there to the other end of the spectrum. Shoes that are no worse, no better, but if they work for you, they're spectacular. And if they don't work for you, they're actually terrible. And for this, I'm going to start out with, again, the OG. This would be on the Nike side. This would be the Alpha Fly. Now, this is the Alpha Fly 1. I actually have an Alpha Fly 2 downstairs that I did not bring. And I haven't run in the 3 yet, because reports are if the 1 or the 2 work for you, the 3 is not really going to be any better. Just a little bit lighter than the 2 and a little bit less arch blistering than the 2 has given people. But the 1 still has a lot of life for me, so I haven't bought the 3 yet, but they're all in the same boat for me. This is an outrageous shoe. So if you're following along on YouTube, which again, this is an episode I would say watch on YouTube if you have time. It's not going to be super long. We have a decoupled outsole. There's like 2 different pieces essentially. You can see where the plate is. It divides the shoe in half. We have these air pods up front. We have nothing in the middle. They are connected directly to the carbon plate. I'm going to do that into the mic. I don't know if the mic will pick that up, but the AirPods are glued directly, bonded directly onto the carbon plate. And then in the heel, there's its own separate giant foam pad. It's got the swallowtail in back. It's super wide in the forefoot. Let's compare it, let's say, to the Asics. You can see on the left side and the right side, it sticks out. And then in the heel, it swallows up the Asics. The Asics heel just disappears inside of this Alpha Fly. It's a wide platform. And it feels that way while running in it. It also has a way it wants to be running. Can you just heel strike and roll through in this? Yeah, you actually can, and it's shockingly comfortable, but it is not fast that way. It wants to be hit with the plate at an angle, and then it just sinks into the ground and boom, launches you forward. It's a bizarre feeling the first time you run in it, and you either love it or you hate it. It either works with your stride or it really fights your stride. Kirk and I, luckily or unluckily, because it ruins many other shoes for us, our bodies, our strides love this shoe. I have taken this through every pace from about 420 in the mile up through 10-minute miles. I did a recovery mile in this while running mile repeats. So I've gone the full gamut of paces. The shoe wants to be run pretty quickly. It will abide by slow paces, but it's going to grumble the whole way at you. But it comes alive the second you get this lean forward, lean into it, load it up, and just bounce forward. It's a long, lopey shoe. It's not loving to be a high turnover shoe. And so it's either going to work for you or it doesn't. I don't know how Rich Ryan loves the shoe because he is a prancy, high turnover runner, but he loves the shoe. So it's really hard to predict who will love it. But all I can predict is that if you love it, it will be exceptionally fast. There may be nothing faster for you. If it doesn't work for you, or if you're one of those people who can't get a lockdown, or because if you look in here, there's this big gap where your foot should be, and there's no foam underneath, and it just bites at people's arches. The 2 is even worse. People get bloody arches running in this shoe. If you're one of these, you're going to hate it. If you're not one of those, you're going to love it. And so I'm putting the Nike Alpha Fly as one of those wild or risk it for the biscuit type shoes that if it works, you're going to love it. Going to its counterpart, the Adios Pro 3. Now it looks a little bit less crazy. They color code so you can see the 2 different layers of foam. You can actually see where the carbon fiber plate goes. Their upper is terrible unless it works for you. I love their upper. I can get it locked down. They have like 50% more eyelets than a normal upper has. There's so many lacing opportunities along the way to tighten this or loosen it or get it wrong. And because it's such a stiff upper and stiff laces, it's like they don't interact well with each other. You tighten one piece down and then the next is independent of that. It kind of feels, it's like you're going through like a tensioning rod system and slowly getting it right. For whatever reason, Adidas uppers work for me. They're not comfortable, but they wrap around my foot. And if I get it tied how I want it, I never have to think about it ever again. Other people never get that experience in this shoe. And so they absolutely detest the upper. Now, if we look at the bottom, you can see, okay, they've done a little weird stuff. They have a cutaway in here. They've cut away a bunch, which is for weight savings. But what it does is it means it wants to be run on the outside of this shoe or a little bit duck-footed. So this is a strange shoe for me in that I can run in it how it wants to be run, but it is difficult for me to do so. And so I alternate loving and hating the shoe. It is, without doubt, a very fast shoe for me. The shoe makes me feel faster, but it beats me up. It is a very stiff shoe. Now, this is the 2. The 3 has been out for years and they have no signs. I mean, there's signs that the 4 is coming out, but we haven't even seen it really in the wild very much yet. So this is essentially still the same shoe as the 3. The 3 is a little softer. The upper's kind of in the other direction. It's maybe a little more comfortable, but it's loosey-goosey now. It's hard to get a lockdown where this is too constricting for some people. But either way, they're the same shoe and at their core, and they are a stiff cushioning. A huge amount of cushion, but stiff. And it's not for everyone. So while this shoe, again, undoubtedly makes me faster, it also beats up my quads when I run in the shoe because it's just a stiff landing. Also, if you look at them, they use rods rather than a carbon fiber plate. And that gives a little bit more flexibility, which I'm glad they do because with this foam, a full carbon plate would be a bridge too far. It would be entirely impossible for me to run in the shoe because it would be so ungodly firm that I couldn't even reap the benefits of the shoe because it would beat me up so badly. It also fixes one problem that I have in some super shoes, which is the carbon plate causes my forefoot to go numb, specifically on my right side. The carbon plate is so immovable, really. It is like, if you see these, this is with the rods, and it's really hard to bend this shoe, but I can a little bit. If I were to grab, let's say these Asics, like I'm really not bending the shoe much. The foam's squishing more than anything's bending. So it doesn't interact well with your foot if it doesn't interact well with your foot. What I mean by that is if your foot plant and stride comes through in a way the shoe wants to, it interacts fine with you. But if your foot doesn't, it doesn't change its ways. You have to change your ways, so it doesn't interact well. And the shoe is very hard for me to run in how it wants to be running. I can do it for a bit, but like I couldn't run a marathon or a half marathon in these shoes, even if the cushioning allowed me to, because I can't physically keep my form in the one specific way the shoe wants to be running for long enough to do it. So if it works for you, this shoe is every bit as fast as the Nike. And it plays out because for a while, Adidas and Nike have just been trading back every road running record from the mile. Nike maybe never has held the road mile, and Adidas has, but from 5K all the way up through marathon. They just get flip flop back and forth between Nike and Adidas. It's fast. It just doesn't work for everyone. All right. Next up are two shoes that I do not have in front of me here, the Cloud Boom Echo. I'd say it's kind of like the Adios Pro 3. It is a firm, cushioned shoe. The foam the on Cloud Boom Echo, and they're on the third version now. All three versions have had a very stiff ride. It is a firm foam, but it's a fast foam. It's a very bouncy foam. It's dynamic, but it is a beat your legs up type of foam. So just like this shoe, I'm clumping them together. It is a fast shoe. Just like this shoe, it also wants to roll outwards out of it. It's not super stable. So if it works for your stride, you're going to be fast in that shoe, but it might beat your legs to death, or it might just not work for you. So again, boom or bust scenario with that on Cloud Boom Echo. And then after that, we have the Saucony Endorphin Elite. Now, I do not have that shoe, and I have never run in it, but I have several friends who have, and in reading their accounts or reading reviews and talking with them, it is not the same shoe. It is the night and day shoe to the Saucony Endorphin Pro. So we have the Endorphin Pro and the Endorphin Elite, and the Elite falls right in line with the Alpha Fly and the Adios Pro, except not in the way that the foam is. The foam, it's pure Adios Pro and Cloud Boom Echo, where it is a firm, dynamic ride, but it wants to be run in one way. So like the Adios Pro, it is unstable. I mean, like the Alpha Fly, it's unstable. Like the Adios Pro and the Cloud Boom, it's a little unstable, but very firm and very fast, but it might beat you up a bunch. So I'm adding that one to the list too. Again, great shoes, but they don't work for everyone. If they do work for you, you've never felt faster in your life. Now I'm going to bring out two of the craziest shoes I've ever run in. And they're very different ends of the spectrum for different reasons. But this is the Adidas Prime X Strung 2. Adidas is known for, you got to have 5 words on it. And if you don't, it's not one of their good shoes. 4 to 5 words minimum to describe. So Adidas, Adi Zero, Prime X Strung 2. Technically 6 words to describe this. This is a 50 millimeter stack height shoe. This is a shoe that was designed to not be legal to race in, but I'm going to include it anyways for an example of what shoe companies are doing. 50 millimeter stack, 40 is the maximum. Most shoes top out at 39.5. It has 2 different carbon plates. One sits down through here. One sits up over the top of that. That is illegal. You can have multiple plates, but they must be in line in parallel with each other, like the Hoka Tecton X has 2 parallel plates. You cannot stack them on top so that you don't get any sort of leveraging effect on top of each other and springboardy effect. The shoe does it. It has a copious amount of Light Strike Pro, and it has this crazy like spiderweb strung upper. All of this combines to make this like a $310 shoe and the most tech advanced shoe probably on the market today. A few other shoes may have an argument against that, but this shoe is outrageous, and it is just like the Adios Pro 3, but for lack of better terms, on steroids, cranked up to 11. It is actually heavy. There is so much foam, they did not have a way to make it light. There are 2 plates, which only adds weight to it, and it wants to be run in a certain way, but it's absolutely outrageous to run in. You've never felt anything like this running in it. And if it works for you, This foam's probably going to be good for 600 to 800 miles based on what the other light strike foams are doing. This upper, by all accounts, will be longer lasting than the regulars, and people are getting 600 to 800 miles out of a pair of Adios Pro 3s. This could be a 1,000-mile shoe without losing the vast majority of its magic. This might be the most leg-saving shoe of all time when it's all said and done. Once it breaks in, it is a little firm right now, but it's just outrageous. But it may not work for you. Being 50 millimeters off the ground is disconcerting. It changes the way you run. You may not like the feel, but if it does work for you, you might be able to run 10 to 20% more volume in that shoe than you could handle in a regular shoe. And then we have probably one of the wildest looking shoes, just in that it's missing something most shoes have, which is a heel. This is the Mizuno Rebellion Pro 2. This has replaced the Alpha Fly as my absolute fastest feeling super shoe. My favorite shoe is still this Asics Metaspeed Sky because it just feels great for everything. I could use it for a high rocks, a stadium race with the stairs and box jumps, everything. I could use it for a 5K. I could probably take it to half marathon. I could do my tempo work in it. It's just a great all around shoe for me, but this is my favorite shoe to run in. And it's not even close. This shoe, they basically said where this plate works best is if we land right here on the mid rear, like probably 2/3 of the way through your foot at an angle, and just load this plate and pop off the ground. And to ensure that happens, we are removing the heel behind that point so you are not even tempted to, because you won't want to run in the shoe if you are landing back behind it. And as a result, you either run the way the shoe wants you to run and run very fast, and it's surprisingly smooth, and it's a propulsion effect like I've never felt anywhere else, or you can't run on that spot, and it's the worst feeling racing shoe you'll ever run in. In fact, Rad Dad Bod, who we had on this podcast, he and I first ran in the shoe for the same time in the same month. And he talked to Kirk like 2 days earlier than I talked to Kirk. And he said, this is the worst feeling shoe I've ever run in. And I called him up. I'm like, Kirk, you will not believe how incredible this shoe feels. So we ran in this at the same time and had totally different experiences with this. That being said, I can't run in the shoe for very long. I don't think I could take it past 10K. Not because of the cushioning, which is phenomenal. This is some of the best foam I've ever felt in my life, but because it requires effort for me to continue hitting right in that spot on the shoe. I can do it, and it's actually comfortable for my stride, and I can hit it using a couple different stride types. I can bounce on my toes. I can kind of go duck-footed. I can do a little pigeon-toed in this. Like, I've played around with this, but it's costly. I have to actually engage my lower legs a little bit to keep hitting where I need to hit. So it's incredibly fast, but it's also very tiring in a different style of running than what I'm used to. So this is maybe the ultimate boomer bust shoe. Not only will it work for you or not work for you, but you will literally love it or hate it, and there is no in between on that shoe. All right, that takes us out of the wild section, and we now get to maybe the most interesting section to me, which is the old school meets new school, old meets new, where you take all the technology that exists currently in the super shoe and bring it down to shoes where people don't want super shoes. They don't want carbon plates. They don't want massive stack heights. They just want a good shoe. And those shoes have always existed, but they used to just be the normal. And now they still exist, but they kind of feel like a lost continent in the shoe world, but they don't have to be, because it's maybe the biggest continent right now. I'm going to end up cutting half the shoes off here because my list is too long. So I'm just going to keep my trend and start with Nike. This is the Nike Streak Fly. This is the Nike Vaporfly technology put inside of a normal shoe. So it's a normal stack height. It's in the 20s. There is no plate. You can see I can roll this thing up into a ball if I want to, but it springs back like no other. It has the ZoomX foam, the same foam tuned pretty much the same to the feel as the Vaporfly. It's a little different than the Alphafly, but the Alphafly is Gen 1 and this is like Gen 4 by this point. But it's the same foam, the same great knit upper, the same ribbed laces, which every shoe on the planet should have if it's not a bow dial. This is, you just pull it through and it clicks through like a ratchet. It's fantastic. It's super light. The cushion to weight ratio is phenomenal, but it's not high stack. Look at the forefoot. Nike, is this a anatomically shaped shoebox? Crazy, huh? It's great. Alec Blennis loves this shoe. I think it's his favorite running shoe right now, and he's an ultra guy. Since the day I've known him, he's been a zero drop ultra guy, and he loves the Zoom X. This has like an 8 mil drop or something like that. Maybe it's 6, but it runs lower. It just feels natural. This has all the great components of a super shoe in a regular shoe. And it's actually on sale right now. You can get it at a lot of Nike outlets for $70, and you can find it online for a little bit more expensive. But it was like a $170 shoe when it came out. But it's fantastic. This is a racing or workout or tempo shoe. You can even run every day in it, or you could run long distance. But it's for everyone. Any foot type almost can work in that. Any stride type, you're going to find a way to work in that. No plates, no gimmicks, just high-end technology watered down into a regular shoe. And we're at 30 minutes, and I have failed in my mission. Along those lines, but even more stripped down, is the Saucony Sinister. This is an old school racing flat, which means a low stack, medium to high drop, super flexible, grippy, rippy racing shoe. Not much to the upper, not much to the outer, just the bare minimum needed to protect your feet while you run extremely fast. This is the type of racing shoe I grew up on in the 90s and the 2000s with modern technology. This takes the foam that's found in the Saucony Endorphin Pros, and they basically just cut it in half and slapped it on this baby. You get this translucent upper. You've got some overlays to lock your foot down. It's a semi-booty, fully gusseted upper construction. It is light. It is airy. This shoe is outrageously light. This is the lightest shoe I own. And a crazy amount of cushion for how much stack there is here. But you can see this is a low stack. Let's compare this just to, let's pull up this this Rebellion Pro next to each other. They look ridiculous next to each other stack height wise. Look at that. There's nothing to it. It's very comfortable. It's pretty narrow like old school racing shoes are, but it's fast. It's fantastic. It's flexible. It's everything you love about an old school racer in a modern, updated, up-to-date technology package. Now they're a great option for people who want to kick it old school, but don't want to run in that brick feeling of old foam. Kind of splitting the difference is the Adidas Takumi Sen. This is one of my favorite shoes of all time. And what Adidas did was this brilliant job of taking a elite carbon plated racer and just toning it down and making a racing flat out of it. This is a road racing shoe. It is extremely, well, not as light as the Sinister, but extremely light. It's more stripped down at stack heights in the 20s rather than the 30s or 40. And they kept their rods in here, but as you can see, they have tuned it differently. This is a flexible shoe, but you have to work against it. So it's not just going to be like the Nike where if you breathe on it, this streak fly, it just folds up. There's some resistance to this, which leads to a really, really snappy ride. The shoe wants to explode and go. But these rods in here, as you can see with the stack height, there's just no real way to hide an extreme curved, well, not even plate, just rods. There's no real curvature to these rods. So they're not forcing your foot to go in any one direction. They're just kind of amplifying the force you're putting into the shoe. If you didn't tell me, if you covered up this and didn't tell me there was any sort of guidance system in the shoe, I wouldn't think there was. I would think this is just a magically snappy shoe. It just wants to get on and off the ground. Crazy pop off the ground. The upper, again, people seem to hate. They've fixed it in recent models, but it works for me. Look how many eyelets there are. Lacing everywhere, but it locks you down and it never moves. I ran a Road 800 in this. I've run a road mile in this. I've done long intervals in this. It's just as a phenomenal shoe, but it's not a super shoe. You don't have to worry about getting ankle tendonitis or Achilles tendonitis in the shoe. It's not going to stress you in that way. It's just a good racing shoe. Old school meets new school. Puma's not going to like to hear me say this. And this is they're on the Adidas train of many names. Let's see if we can get this. Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2. This is an update to the one, which I also have, actually, right here. They put the one out, and it felt like all their technology went into the upper. I'm going to slide my hand into here so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at that. This is like foot lingerie. Felt like all their technology went into their upper and their foam. This shoe feels fantastic on your feet. You put it on, and I thought this might be my favorite super shoe yet. And then you run in it, and it doesn't do anything other than just feel good. There's no pop from the plate. The foam doesn't give you crazy boost. It's just a light, nice feeling shoe, but there's nothing super about it. So then they took it, they moved up here, they added more stack to it. What that allows you to do is put more curve into your plate, and there's more foam. They also changed the upper to be this extremely grippy Puma grip outer. Not the upper, the outer to the outsole to be this extremely grippy Puma grip. Did a little cutout because that's what everyone's doing to save weight. You can see the plate in there. Makes people feel cool. They call it their power plate with no O, no E, PWR plate, because removing vowels is trendy these days. And what they ended up making is the world's greatest moderately fast running shoe. It's so comfortable. It's got a great platform. It fits your foot wonderfully. Their uppers are so good at locking your foot down. They have these little grippies on the back here, so your Achilles doesn't slip around, your heel doesn't slip around. It just locks you down. But it's not super fast. It's just very good at running moderately fast. If there was a tempo shoe, this was it. But they made this to be their elite marathon racer. It's just an inoffensive, could be in the safe super shoe category, except I don't consider it a super shoe because I don't think the plate does much for you in terms of propulsion. But it's just kind of an old school tempo shoe, but with new school technology into it. So Puma may not love that review, but what I'm saying is this is a phenomenal shoe. This would be one of my shoe options. Ooh, hit the microphone with it. That Puma grip really latched on. If I could only own a shoe to do everything in, this would be one of those. People talk about like a travel shoe. I'm going to travel for work, and while I'm there, I want to run. I want to do some workouts, and if there's a race, I might want to pop into that. This shoe might go in my bag for that. It is a phenomenal all-around shoe. It's just not super, which makes it old school meets new in my book. Now, there's a bunch of others. I don't think I'm even going to pull them all up and talk about them for brevity, but we talked about the Streak Fly and the Takumi Sen. There's also the Hoka Cello or Cielo, depending on how cool you are. The Cielo Road. There's the Brooks Hyperion Max. There's the Hoka Mach series, and even the Adidas Adios, which is basically this shoe with no rods in it. So even more flexible, a little less poppy, very much old school, but with new school technology. So a lot of options in this category to go to. And this episode has gotten slightly long, but not nearly as long as our normal Training Tuesdays. So I'm going to power ahead to the trail side of the equation. Shall we? So for the trails, the safe super shoes. I'm going to start right here. This is the one of the oldest, the original, the Hoka Tecton X1. Now the X2 and the X1, the outsole and midsole remains unchanged. They just made it so that the upper did a better job of locking your heel down, which is a huge detriment of the shoe. It's a huge weakness. You can see I've put a different style I put lock laces in here to help with that because I'm constantly adjusting the shoe until I get it right. I have to run like at least a mile before I have my lockdown figured out. The second version corrects that. They just came out with the third, which is like 50% more stack height, 50% softer foam, all supercritical foam now. This had half and half, and even the half that was supercritical wasn't really tuned that soft or aggressively. It has parallel detached carbon plates, which really don't do anything for propulsion. There's barely a noticeable tip to this at all. They kind of just make this a really reliable, fairly quick, fairly cushioned, firmly cushioned shoe. You could race long distance in it. If pressed on trails, you could race short distance, but it's just kind of a safe shoe. And we don't have a lot of super shoes for the trails that do much for you. There's probably 5 or 6 shoes that have been created to give you propulsion, but they're pretty terrible on the trails if they're not buffed out trails because they can't run trails. They can run dirt. So I actually bumped this up to super shoe category, even though technically it doesn't meet my 2 criteria, simply because the trails are too finicky. There's not a lot of true super shoes. Second one in there is the Nike Ultrafly Trail. Kind of opposite direction of there. Instead of super firm, they went super soft. You have the Zoom X cushioning, which is as soft as the foam really gets outside of maybe Fuel Cell from, why am I blanking on this? From New Balance. Wow, that was shaky. From New Balance, the Fuel Cell is about as soft as it gets, but so is Zoom X. However, their plate isn't super curved, so you're not getting it's not the Vaporfly for the trails, which is what everyone thought we were getting. It's an ultra running shoe. It's got the widest forefoot Nike has really ever made in a shoe. The only issue is it is a very stiff plate, so it's off-putting to some people, but it is pretty safe. You're not going to roll your ankles constantly. You're not going to feel like you're tipping over off the front of your foot. It's a pretty approachable shoe. And like I said, the trail scene, kind of starved for great shoes. However, we're going to get to one, and that is the North Face Summit Vective Pro 2. You know it's good when it has many names. The North Face Summit Vective Pro 2. If we count the North Face as one word, that's still a 5-word name. So you know it's good. Also know you can probably barely afford it. They charge you probably like $25 per word. Now, this is the first trail shoe I ever put on that I thought, yep, I'm getting something from this shoe, where if I wore this on the roads, if I had to, I could run a road marathon in this shoe and feel like I got something above a regular cushion trainer. But it's safe. It's not crazy tippy. It's not crazy high drop. The upper's pretty darn good, especially in the Pro 2 compared to the Pro 1. And it's kind of inoffensive. There were blistering problems on the Pro 1 because of where the carbon fiber plate comes up and wraps around the midsole to try to keep it more stable, and from the super foam squishing and rolling you out the side on a trail. But the Pro 2 fixed a lot of that. And so I think that in the safe category, the North Face Summit Vective Pro 2 is the most super of super shoes for racing on the trails. We go to the other end of the spectrum to the wild shoes. And I actually don't have either of these two in front of me. They are both on my Christmas list, and I will be getting to them. But since this is already the boomer bust, it's probably not going to work for everyone. But if it does, you're going to be fast. I feel comfortable talking about it without racing in them yet, because I'm not saying they're going to work for most people. But speaking of names, Adidas Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra. This might be the fastest shoe on the trails right now. It's very narrow through the midfoot. It wants to be running only on your forefoot. Some people can take it on technical. Some say they can't at all. But the consensus is if it works for your foot, you're going to be fast. Right up into the point where you roll your ankle, hurt your knee, or can't sustain forefoot running anymore. And then you're going to hate it. That sounds pretty much in line with like the Mizuno Rebellion Pro. If it works for you and you can do it, you're going to love it. And then you're either going to fatigue and hate it, or it's not going to work for you and you're going to hate it. That makes it pretty super. That sounds like a super shoe to me. So I'm going to put that in the wild category. And then a recently dropped shoe. Wasn't even going to make our episode, but I've read enough reviews on it to say it firmly qualifies. Asics went ahead and took the Asics Meta Speed Sky, and they slapped some overlays on the upper and tread on the bottom, and they made a trail super shoe. The Metafuji Trail. Asics, they like Meta. Asics Meta Speed Sky, Meta Speed Edge, which they don't make anymore, and now the Asics Metafuji, the Metafuji Trail. Asics Grip is a sleeper. Their traction is about as good as anyone that's not using crazy compounds. So it's not VJ, but it's every bit as good as Vibram Mega Grip. And their foam, which I said about this shoe, makes it one of the most stable shoes out there, is going to make it one of the most adaptable foams to the trails. I also believe Adidas has a foam that's made for the trails because it's not crazy squishy. But the Metafuji Trail, these names are getting a little ridiculous. I haven't run in, but I will be buying that shoe because I've run in the sky. It works for me, and they just made a trail version of that. And the reviews say it's a little too high stacked to run technical. It's a little bit too super and bouncy and plated. They changed the plate tension a little bit there. The way it's tuned, it flexes more, but it's a little bit too super to run crazy technical stuff. But if you're fast and you're competent, you could run fast on relatively smooth trails in this shoe. And so that adds it to the wild style to me. And now we get to what I think super foam and materials are made for on the trails, which is the old school meets new school category. Because I don't believe carbon plates have much place on most trails. If you're running buffed out trails, you might just be better off in a regular super shoe. And if you get to the point where there's rocks and roots, any mud at all, I don't think the carbon balances out the good with the bad. Anytime you save on the flats, you're going to give back and then some on technical descents or switchbacks or just rocky, rooty sections. I don't believe carbon has much place on the trails unless it's the right shoe and the right trail. But what does have place on the trail is super foam when tuned correctly, and these fantastic uppers that we have developed on the road shoe. I say we like I had anything to do with it. We as in the running community, which have stripped down all unnecessary weight and gotten really good at using thin little filaments and overlays to lock down your foot. So you add super breathable, which equates to drainable on the trail, great lockdown, which equates to not turning your ankles as easily for the trail, and these really high energy return, low weight foams, which on the trail means that you save your legs a little bit and you save ounces. If there's one main critique of trail shoes is that historically they're too heavy. So now we have this new era of trail shoes, which are not super, but they have great uppers and super foams, but without crazy plating. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about these. First, Terrex Agrivix Speed. It's like the Terrex Agrivix Speed Ultra, but you take out the rods and you lower the stack down. It's just a normal trail racer, but with great foam and a great upper. Like that's what we all really want, right? The Hoka Zanal doesn't have the best foam in the world, but it's got a fantastic upper. It's a stripped down Hoka, and it's made to rip trails. Asics Fuji Speed Trail. Take this shoe, take out the plate, lower the stack height a little bit. So you take away all the instability, give it some good grip, and you've got a stripped down trail racer. It's maybe the biggest sleeper on the trail right now is the Asics Fuji Trail, Fuji Speed Trail. Man, they have so many word combinations. Solomon Pulsar 3. I've got the twos behind me. And the downside of the twos is they're pretty unstable. They're very squishy. They have great energy return for a little bit and then the foam dies out. But I love the shoe. But not a lot of people love it on technical terrain. And the threes just firm it up a little bit. It's like all those great Solomon sock-like racers you've had over the years. But it's like 3 ounces less and it has a better, less stiff form-fitting upper. And it's just better and lighter in every single way. You have the Saucony Rift. You basically take this shoe, the Saucony Sinister, add some stack height, and put a trail bottom on it. It's a flexible, super foamed shoe with no plating. Let your feet be free. It's a fantastic shoe. This is the one that Hans Troyer, who we've had on the podcast, ran 62 miles in his debut Ultra. Just a great all-around shoe. No plates needed. Then you don't have to worry about, cracking your ankles every time the terrain gets technical. Salomon S-Lab Genesis or non-S-Lab Genesis. Again, you take Salomon that we've always known and loved, where they're narrow, they're fast, but they're stiff uppers and their foam is just kind of a brick. And now they have good foam and more flexible uppers, but still they retain your foot. VJ. I actually have two shoes here. The Max 2 is a VJ Max with great foam. An eTPU foam. They still have their bottom, an improved upper. Like their grip's going to be great, but now the foam actually likes your feet. It's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with the grip. It's everything that the Max was, but now it's comfortable and has a little bit of pop. You actually feel like it might help you run rather than I'm going to give you grip despite the fact that you want to run in me. That's how the old one used to act. And this one kind of straddles the line. This is the VJ Sport. Why am I blanking on its name right now? The Lightspeed. And it's like halfway through wild and halfway through old school. It's got just a normal thick upper. It's actually kind of bad in terms of it doesn't breathe at all, but it locks you down very well. It's got a great bottom, but it's got super foam and a half to 2/3 of a plate in here. Little bit tippy, but you can actually run trails in this thing. It's super fast, but you don't think you're in a super shoe in it. It's kind of a jack of all trades shoe that's a little bit tippy, a little bit. And then we have the normal. I don't know how to say these normal shoes. This is Kilian Jornet's brand, the Keurig, like a coffee maker. Super foam, dense super foam that's supposed to last 600 miles, which is crazy for a trail racer. But it's just normal. There's no plating. It's just a super foam in a regular stripped down racer. These kind of things here, and we could go on about this, but the best thing that happens to an industry is where revolution takes place up at the top and then technology trickles down. And it makes all the mediocre, the standard, the base models as good as the high-end models were 5 to 10 years ago. And that's what we've now had in this final category of shoes, which is old school meets new. And so these are all the shoes styles that you could race in. Super shoes, crazy shoes, or old school style, but with new technology. So hopefully you took something out of this beyond just the fact that I have a shoe problem. And hopefully this has helped point you in the right direction. And maybe equally, hopefully this has given you permission not to have to use super shoes. They're not mandatory. Do we love them? Yeah, unfortunately we do. They're just good at what they do. But are they mandatory? No, and there's a lot of great options. For a while, it was just old school or super shoes. There wasn't a lot in between. And now there's this middle sector that is a lot of fun to run in with no downsides whatsoever. So thank you very much for tuning in and making it this long. If you did, in fact, make it this long, we are back together, reunited forever, Kirk and I, in the next episode. And if you want this to stop happening, then you're going to have to find another podcast, because I'm going to keep talking about shoes every chance I get. Until next time.